Hello and welcome to the Cancer Education Series, brought to you by Mercy One and Above and Beyond Cancer. My name is Chris Goodale. I'm the Executive Director of Above and Beyond Cancer. It's been a long day. It's always my great pleasure during these activities that I get to introduce our founder, Dr. Dick Deming. Dr. Deming?
Hey, thanks, Chris. I know you were watching the Dodgers last night. Welcome, everybody. It's a real treat tonight for me to introduce to you our speaker, who is a good friend of mine. He's from Chicagoland originally, went to Carleton College, undergrad, Chicago Medical School, and did his residency and fellowship at the Henry Ford Hospital. He is the medical director of the John Stoddard Cancer Center, UnityPoint, and he also has an Integrative Medicine Fellowship from the Andrew Weil program at the University of Arizona. In addition to all of those honors and positions, he also serves on the board of directors for Above and Beyond Cancer. And in the community, there is no one that is more well-versed and more enthusiastic about healthy living, healthy eating, and wellness in general. And it's a real treat to have him speak tonight, Dr. Andy Nish, on protecting your health and immunity during stressful times, an integrative approach. Andy, Dr. Andy Nish.
Thanks so much, Dick. I appreciate it very much. And welcome to all of you tonight. You can choose to spend your time in many, many different ways, and you chose to spend it with us. So I want to give you some tips on how you can really improve in your wellness during this time. And I want to pay particular attention to our immunity. How do we protect ourselves from the COVID-19 virus? So welcome to all of you. And I'm going to share my screen here and get going with the talk. But I always, before we get going with the talk, I want to do just a short little meditation, because I think it's so important to get ourselves in the right frame of mind to really absorb what's going on around us and be aware and in the present moment. So I'm going to bring my slideshow up. And then we're going to do just a 3 or 4 minute meditation. So I want all of you to get comfortable in your chair, get in a comfortable position, back straight and upright. And I want you to close your eyes. Now take a few deep breaths in. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your nose or mouth. And just really begin to settle in. And let your body develop a natural breathing rhythm. Don't force it. Just be gentle with your body, be kind to yourself, and develop a slow, gentle breathing rhythm. And then gradually become aware of the sensations of your body. Notice where you feel the breath. Do you feel it coming in through your nostrils, the tip of your nose? Do you feel it in your abdomen as your abdomen and chest rise and fall? Pay particular attention to the breath, focusing on how that breath feels as it moves in and out. Focus on the raw sensation of breathing. As you pay attention to the breath, you'll notice other sensations in your body. You'll notice thoughts. You'll notice other feelings. Take note of those, but then just thank them and let them go. And concentrate back on the breath. Focus on the breath. As more thoughts enter your mind, which they inevitably will, acknowledge the thought, but then go back and focus on the breath. Breathing in through your nose, out through your nose or mouth. Not forcing the breath, but letting your body's natural rhythm take control. Okay. Well, hopefully I've put you in a more focused, relaxed state where your heart rate has come down, your blood pressure has come down, and you're just comfortable with a very relaxed sense of breath. Tonight we're going to be talking about, excuse me, I've had trouble with this. Protecting your health and immunity during stressful times, an integrative approach. And Dr. Deming and I were talking before this presentation, and I asked, how are you? And we both came up with sort of the word restless. We're just kind of restless right now. There's so much uncertainty. We have this election coming up. We have the virus. We have increasing number of viral cases. And there's a lot of restlessness in all of us. And so I hope after the presentation tonight, I can give you some tips and some techniques to help you with this restlessness. So we're going to use an integrative approach. So we're not going to talk about pharmaceuticals. We're not going to talk about drugs. We're going to talk about what you can do with your natural human body. So as a human organism, we struggle for certainty when the essence of life itself is uncertainty. And I think the last 9 months has highlighted this quite dramatically. We all know life is uncertain, but we as a human organism want to predict the future, right? We want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. And the reality is we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you can see this conflict, this tension that's in all of us, wanting to predict the future and know what's going to happen, yet knowing the future is completely uncertain. So we're in a state of constantly worrying about the future that has not yet happened, and simultaneously we're trying to figure out steps how to avoid that which has not yet happened. So we're trapped in this mindset, and it's physically and mentally exhausting. A really good, I don't know how many of you are sports fans, but if you watch the thing on the Chicago Bulls called The Last Dance, it was on ESPN and it was televised on Netflix. They interviewed Michael Jordan, and somebody asked him a question. Michael, do you ever worry about missing a shot? And Michael Jordan's answer was really profound. He said, why would I worry about missing something that I haven't even taken yet? And you know, his coach, Phil Jackson, was this Zen master, Buddhist meditator. And I think he really imparted that on his players, that you live and do in the present moment, and you don't worry about what's going to happen next. And that's where we get into trouble as humans. We're worried about the future tomorrow, we're ruminating about the past, and we're never living in the present moment.
I see Deming is participating.
So, is this a time of fear or is this a time of opportunity? Almost all of us are living with some sense of fear. Fear of the virus, fear of the collapse of the economy, fear of the politicians, whatever it might be. But this is really a great opportunity to look at our deep-seated fears that we have about our own mortality. We can recognize that the virus is not causing those fears, but it's bringing those fears to the surface and accentuating those fears. It's accentuating those things in the human psyche that relate to our own existence. So this is an opportunity to appreciate what it is to be alive. We're all less busy, presumably. We all have more time at home. We all have more time with our family and loved ones because we're not out going to concerts and movies and things. And so this is a perfect opportunity to really be with those around you. And most of the time we are not with people. We are physically, but mentally and emotionally we're off somewhere else. So it's a wonderful opportunity to cultivate meaningful relationship. So what do the quantum scientists tell us? The quantum scientists tell us that there is no static or absolute reality. Everything exists as an infinite possibility, each with a certain probability. That's quantum physics. Anything is possible, but everything comes with a probability. So we have to remember that. We have to remember that. Now, we also want to understand that the physical body, our sense of being or well-being, can be affected by our immaterial mind or our thoughts. So if we constantly have the thought of dread and fear and death, that's going to consume us, and that's going to cause our body to have a state of disease. Thoughts, which are the mind energy, directly influence how the brain controls our body's physiology through chemicals, neurotransmitters, and hormones. So it's important that we work to shift our mind's energy towards positive, life-giving, life-generating thoughts and eliminate these energy-draining and debilitating negative thoughts. And I talk to people all the time about this, but there's nothing worse right now than watching the news, because it will suck the energy right out of you. So instead of watching 20 minutes of news, learn to have 20 minutes of contemplative time with meditation. What fills your mind, your thoughts and belief become your world. Whatever you put your attention on expands. So you can put your attention on the negative rhetoric that we all encounter day to day and get caught up in that, or you can put your attention on the beauty that surrounds us every day, the physical beauty, the energetic beauty, the beauty of humankind. It's up to you. So the nature of life is uncertainty. How comfortable we are with uncertainty is the degree from which we experience freedom from that concern. When we can experience freedom, our physiology relaxes, our body becomes better. If our mind is in a constant state of fear, then our body has to follow suit. When we're in a constant state of fear, it's called the fight or flight reaction. And our body is flooded with chemicals that make us sick. We need to control these fictitious, illusionary views of the future that has not yet happened and live in the present moment, enjoy the beauty of every moment of every day. Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, writes, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." And it's so true. We live in a fear-based society. Politics are fear-based. We got to get beyond fear in order to live our best life. So I ask you as an absolute truth, as you sit here in this moment, is it true you are not safe? As a human organism, we want to feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, that's what generates stress in the fight or flight response. For most of us, we are not safe. I know that's a double negative, but it's done that on purpose. So how would you experience your mind, body, and emotional state in the absence of the concern that you are not safe? And what tools can I help you with to achieve that state? And that's what we're going to talk about next. Tools for maintaining well-being and supporting your immune system. We're going to talk a lot about stress mitigation. And we're going to talk a little bit about the definition of stress. We're going to talk about sleep. How do we optimize our home environment? This is something we really miss when we talk about managing stress and managing work from home. What is your home environment and how can you optimize that environment to improve your well-being? talk about exercise and nutrition. And then another big one that I really want to touch on is how do we maintain meaningful human relationships during this time? Stress mitigation. Stress happens when the mind resists what is, right? Stress happens when the mind resists what is. Think about that statement. And think about how we talk about, oh, I wish life was like it was last year. Oh, I wish so much that we could get back to normal. That's our mind resisting what is. And that's creating low-level stress in our bodies. Richard Lazarus defines stress as a particular relationship between the person and the environment that is appraised by the person as taxing or exceeding his or her resources and endangering his or her well-being. Now, you look at that definition, and what that definition does is it emphasizes the relationality and the critical role of appraisal and conscious choice with whether we're under stress or not. The meaning we bring to the transaction, the way we see it, and the way we hold it in awareness, our perspective as a whole can determine whether we label that as stressful or not. So every time we have an interaction, we can consciously control whether that interaction is stressful or not by the way we think. So if you can see a potentially, if you can see a potentially stressful event differently through a different lens, not the lens we were conditioned with, but a lens that we can learn to adapt to, then the same event which once seemed stressful may not be stressful at all. Most of the stress that we perceive is because of the way we were conditioned by past experiences. We have to change that subconscious belief. We have to change that way of thinking. So how do we do that? Well, one of the best and easiest ways is use the breath. Use the breath. As we did in the meditation at the beginning of this program, we used the breath to calm and make you feel present. By focusing on the breath, we can change your physiology from a state of vigilance, fight or flight, to a state of calm and relaxation. Why is it special? Well, it's the only body function that we can perform consciously as well as unconsciously. It can be completely voluntary, but it's also completely involuntary. Conscious breathing techniques can help lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate, increase your blood flow, help with digestion, and bring a sense of calm to your brain and your body. There's many, many different breath techniques. There's, you can go on YouTube and look up Andrew Weil. He'll teach you the 4-7-8 breathing. It's as simple as counting breaths, breathing 1, 2, 3, 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4 out. It's very simple. Now, one of the keys to breathing is you want to breathe through your nose. The inhalation should always be through your nose. This nose is not a passive organ. This nose actually has many physiologic functions. It warms the air, it filters the air, okay? It moistens the air. When you breathe through your nose, you're literally changing the physiology of your body as opposed to when you breathe through your mouth. So breathe through your nose. And you have to practice this. Most of us walk around in this sort of semi-vigilant state of stress, and we breathe rapidly and shallowly. So this is really about conscious breathing. Practice this every day. Mindfulness meditation. So this is a big one, and I'm going to spend a bit of time on this because it is can so profoundly change your life. So what is mindfulness meditation? John Kabat-Zinn, who developed the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, defines it as moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness or mindfulness. And meditation, excuse me, let me take a drink here. Meditation consists of two simultaneous processes. The first one is insight, paying attention to what is arising. And this is something we just don't do. We don't pay attention to the present moment. We don't know what's going on in front of us because we're worried about what we need to do next or what happened 10 minutes ago. So number one, we have to have insight by paying attention to what's arising in front of us or within us. And the other part is surrender, letting go of attachment to those arising thoughts. So we have a thought in our brain and immediately we want to react to it, write it down, act on it. Thoughts are simply thoughts. Most thoughts don't have any relationship to reality whatsoever. So let those thoughts, acknowledge the thought, and then let the thought go. They just disappear. Sam Harris, who has an app on the App Store called Waking Up, says mindfulness is about the quality of the mind, simply undistracted attention. Undistracted attention. And he also quotes, the quality of your day is entirely dependent on the quality of your mind. And think about that. Think about when you have a good day or a bad day. And really think about what made your day good and what made your day bad. And was it really the external forces that surround us, or was it how you thought about those external forces? Think about that. John Kabat-Zinn writes about 9 attitudes that can be cultivated in everyday life through the practice of meditation. And this is the essence of what we're trying to do. So let's talk about those. Number one, when you do mindfulness exercise or meditation, you want to come at it with a beginner's mind, seeing things always fresh and new. And this is a really difficult one. And I want you to think back of small children. I have a 2-year-old grandnephew, and he walks around and everything is new. Everything is unique. And he asks the question, why, how, what, etc., etc. Because he's seen everything is new, everything is interesting, and he has no preconception of what it means. But here's the problem. As we experience life over the years, it leaves little room for new possibilities because we are, quote, set in our ways. And those are programmed in when we're kids. In the mind of an expert, there are few possibilities because I know that this is right. But quantum physics tells us anything is possible, but it comes with a probability. For a beginner, there are infinite possibilities. When you come at something with freshness, there are infinite possibilities how to solve a problem. See everything with a beginner's mind. Non-judging. You know, this is a really hard one because we're humans and we have an opinion and judgment of just about anything and everything. When you really pay attention to what goes on in your mind, you discover that you have judgments and opinions about everything. I like it, I don't like it. I want it, I don't like it. It's good, it's bad. The list goes on and on and on. By quickly judging, we're not allowing to see how things really are. We make a judgment instantaneously, and that judgment is based on our past experiences, which are embedded in our subconscious, habitual reactive mind. And we just keep doing it because we're not aware. We're not aware. We see everything through the veil of our own opinions, ideas, likes, and dislikes, which is blinding. We go through life with blinders on. So meditation does not mean there will be no judgments. We're going to always have judgments, but it means becoming aware of how judgmental we are, and it helps us navigate through the judging so that it doesn't any longer dominate our lives. Because most of us don't recognize judgment, just like we don't recognize implicit biases. You know, there's lots of studies. Oh, I'm not biased. I'm not racially biased. Yet you show a person, you have a person walk down the street who's African-American and they've shown women hold their purses tighter. That's an implicit bias. It's a subconscious that's been programmed into the subconscious. So it takes awareness to change the attitude and behavior. Acceptance, an active recognition that things are the way they are. Sometimes things are not the way we want them to be. And guess what happens? When we force things as they are not, that leads to stress. And this is the perfect example of what that is. We don't want to accept that we are now in somewhat of a restricted state because of this viral pandemic. And when we don't accept things the way they are, that creates stress, anxiety, and fear. acceptance. Letting go. This is the opposite of clinging, okay? And again, this is another perfect example. Letting go reminds us that we do not have to get involved in grasping and clinging to what we want and push away what we don't. Well, here we are. We've got the COVID pandemic. We don't want the COVID pandemic, and many of us are trying to push it away, push it out of our minds. Creates anxiety, stress, fear. Letting go means letting be, letting life unfold as it is, letting what happens happen. Letting go allows you to recognize that you are trapped by your own desires, which is painful. Letting go is actually a doorway to freedom. Let go. Be where you are. John Kabat-Zinn writes a book. It's called Wherever You Go, There You Are. Wherever you are is good enough. Accept it. Trust. We need to begin to cultivate a deep sense of trust in ourselves and the natural wisdom of our bodies. And we've really, I think, Dick can comment on this later, but I think we've done a tremendous disservice in our Western medical model because we put all trust in what we feel into the physician's hands. And the physician is telling us, do this, do that, when we should trust what our body's telling us. Who knows better than your body, which you've lived in X number of years, than you? Trust your intuitive sense. We need to develop a better sense of intuition and trust that intuition, a gut feeling. My gut tells me something's not right. Listen to it. Patience. We're impatient to get on to the next thing, aren't we? Oh, got to get going, got to move, got next thing to do. Well, when that happens, we're always worried about what we have to do or what we should have done, and we miss what we're actually doing in the present moment. We miss that. So we want to cultivate a practice in recognition that things will unfold in their own way, that in some profound way, those things cannot be hurried. In rushing to get somewhere else, the byproduct is we're never actually where we are. And that is so true. You'll ask somebody, what did you do yesterday? I don't have any idea. I was so busy, I had to get on to the next thing. We never appreciate that present moment. And I think this is a perfect time, a perfect opportunity to really be in the present moment, be with ourselves, be with our loved ones, and not just rushing to the next activity. Non-striving. So for all the type A personalities, and yep, I'll raise my hand, that's me, trying not to make anything happen is really hard. My training through life is I made things happen. But we just need to be with the unfolding of life moment to moment and let it be. Let things be as they are. The longer your to-do list, as John Kabat-Zinn says, the longer you should practice non-striving. Gosh, do those leaves really need to be raked today? No, they're going to be there tomorrow. And maybe they'll get blown away by the wind the next day. Whatever is here is good enough. It's okay. Gratitude. This is a big one that I really stress people practice because we are loath to always talk about what's wrong in life, and we should cultivate a practice of what's right in life. Because remember what we said, whatever your mind goes to expands. So if our mind is constantly going to what's wrong, that's what expands in our universe, in our world. When our mind goes to what's right and what I'm grateful for, our mind expands into beauty and love. So be grateful every day. Write a gratitude journal. 3 things every night you're grateful for. And they're very, very simple. There's nothing complex. I'm grateful the sun was out today. I'm grateful the snow is melted. I'm grateful my granddaughter called me and said hello, whatever it might be. And as you practice that and cultivate that, your life changes, your brain changes, and the way you go about life changes. Generosity. Give yourself to life. We are human beings. As human beings, we are naturally compassionate and loving. Give to other people what would make them happy or bring them joy. And that's one of the things I know Dick asks people. What brings joy to your life? where we can bring people joy. The COVID does not prevent us from helping people or bringing them joy. Simple acts of kindness, a phone call saying, I'm thinking about you and I'm worried about you. Are you okay? A simple wave to the person on the street, a simple smile. Think of walking down the street and someone smiling at you. How does that make you feel? We never incorporate that in our being because we just, oh, somebody smiled, big deal. Next time somebody smiles at you, says hello to you, waves to you, stop for a moment and really feel what that felt like. The real fruit of mindfulness practice is that our mind becomes more and more flexible and less a prisoner to the habitual ways of thinking. So we have this pre-programming into our subconscious of how we react in any given situation. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. What mindfulness does, it makes us aware of how we're reacting, and it allows us to change that reaction. So we are able to place attention where we want it. Thoughts and emotions, while still arising, may or may not distract us. Viktor Frankl says, and I love this quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. So you have to remember our subconscious programming is our stimulus response programming. Okay? Somebody yells at me, I immediately yell back at them. That's my stimulus response programming. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So the stimulus happens, and the response is embedded in our subconscious, and it's almost immediate. But that's what meditation allows us to do. It allows us to expand that space so we can change the response to the stimulus that we've dealt with our entire life. That's the beauty of mindfulness. And then we're free to place our attention where we wish, allowing us to create a world of our choosing. It's your choice. It's your choice. This is a picture. I love these pictures because I love scenes of nature, because nature is naturally healing and naturally calming. And this is the comet Neowise from earlier this year. It was out this summer, and this is looking over Mount Hood in Oregon. My son took this picture. This is a time-elapsed picture, but I don't know if any of you got to see it, but it was the most remarkable thing ever. This beautiful comet in the sky. It was quite remarkable. And this is one of those times that you want to be in that present moment and not miss it. I'm going to read just a quick poem here, a quick story. And this epitomizes how we live and how mindfulness can change. And this is called an autobiography in 5 short chapters. Chapter 1, I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down another street. I just love the metaphorical analogy with this in developing a mindfulness practice. That's life. That's life. Okay, another one of my favorite stress reduction techniques is going out into the forest and just walking slowly and contemplatively and enjoying everything the forest has to offer. The Japanese call it Shinrin-yoku. We call it forest bathing. It literally means taking in the forest atmosphere. It's a simple idea. A person simply visits a natural area, particularly forest, and walks in a relaxed way that's calming, rejuvenating, and restorative. It's developed in the late 80s You know, there are certified forest bathing experts, but you can just go do it. Walk through the forest. It's not a hike. It's not a race. It's just walking slowly, contemplatively, taking in all the forest has to offer. And that means the sights, the sounds, the feel, the taste, everything. Feel the energy of the forest. Go up and put your arms around a tree. Feel the energy of that tree. It's amazing stuff. And the Japanese have studied this fairly extensively. And what they've shown is the health benefits include reduced stress, improved mood, lower blood pressure, boosts the immune system by increasing the number of what we call natural killer cells. Those are important for fighting infections, particularly viruses. And it increased energy levels and improved sleep. So go out and absorb nature. Walking in nature, exercising in nature is a far different experience than being in the gym. Sleep. You know, there's been lots of studies on sleep, you know, what does sleep do? But one of the bottom lines is shorter sleep duration and inconsistent sleep patterns increase the risk of infectious illness. There was one study that showed getting less than 5 hours of sleep over 7 consecutive nights versus having 7 or more over the same time increased a person's risk of getting a cold by 350%. Sleep is incredibly important. So we need to sleep. We need to sleep for 7 to 9 hours. And we need to, what we're finding is we need to have the consistent sleep patterns. It's the consistency of sleep that may be more important than the actual duration. So you want to go to bed the same time every night and rise the same time every morning, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. It should be very, very consistent. Here's one that I think we miss a lot. We're all working more from home. We have children to deal with. We have husbands or wives to deal with. We have a chaotic, cluttered household because everybody's in it more. But we really want to focus on how do we make our home a healing space. So we have to think of all the different things that go on in making a healing space. There's a gal down at University of Arizona. She's Dr. Sternberg, Esther Sternberg, and she runs a program down there that really focuses on, it's a master of healing spaces, literally. And it really, she's done tons of research on how do we make spaces, whether it's your home space, your healthcare space, or other office space, healing. So we'll give you some tips on that. So the first thing I think we all look at is, what do we see? What do we see? So if you're cooped up in a closet, that's a big problem, because you have no beauty or nature that you're looking at. So we know that beautiful views of nature are universally calming and healing. So if you're able to place your desk near a window and look out into nature, that's the best, preferably on a side of your house with abundant sunlight. If you don't have a window, then put some plants and flowers around. Put some natural things around, plants, flowers, cactus, whatever it might be. Now, if you don't have that ability, or you're allergic or don't want to take care of plants, then hang some pictures of nature. Hang pictures of whatever you like, the beach, the ocean, a stream, a lake, a mountain, doesn't make any difference, okay? So what you see can profoundly affect how you feel and actually how productive you are. Also, we want to be cognizant of clutter. Cluttered workspaces increase our stress. Cluttered workspaces are stressful. So unclutter for a calmer workspace. What do you hear? So a lot of us are at home. It's not the big city like Chicago, so we don't have all the street noise and the siren noise, but a lot of us may live where there's quite a bit of noise of traffic. Loud noises are stressful. So we can do several things. We can put on tapes or, downloads of nature, babbling brook, ocean waves, wind in the trees. If you happen to live where there's a lot of nature around, open the windows when you can, listen to the birds, listen to the trees. We want to be in a calm, quiet space. Some of us don't do well with any sound. Some of us do much better with just quiet. You can play your favorite calming music. Now, AC/DC, probably not so much, but calming music. All of these can improve your health, improve your well-being, improve your productivity, and calm you down. Smells. This is another interesting one most of us don't think about, but our most primitive sense is our smell sense. It's the most ingrained and lasts the longest over history. So think of as a child. I remember distinctly smells as a child. The smell of pine trees when we went to the woods, the smell of baking cookies, the smell of a baking apple pie. Think of smells that remind you of a happy memory and try and recreate those smells. Now, I do caution people about smells. Don't buy these chemical deodorizer things that you plug in, because those are just spewing chemicals into the room. They're not natural. When I say smells, it's really how do we get a natural smell, either with an essential oil that's derived from the actual plant or having something that creates that smell in your house. So smells can really be profoundly healing. We're learning that as we exhale more and more carbon dioxide, we can become sleepy, we can become less productive. So if you're in a small room, you want to make sure that room is well ventilated. If it's not, then you want to step outside that room and get some fresh air every once in a while. And then humidity levels, really interesting research that probably optimal humidity level is between 35 and 45%. And we have to remember that this is really important in the winter because viral transmission is greater with dry air. So if you can, humidify your house and keep your house at least at 30%, but maybe even strive for 35% during the winter. Exercise. We all know that this is good for us. We all know how important this is for our well-being. But it can really improve your immune system. It can boost your mood. And it can improve your physical conditioning. You know, a lot of people don't want to go to gyms. I don't even like going to gyms, but you can still go outside. You can still go outside and take a walk, ride a bike, go outside and garden, mow your lawn, rake your leaves. Get out every day, even if it's for just 10 minutes. Get outside and enjoy nature. Nutrition, we can talk for hours about nutrition, but some of the latest research is suggesting that our nutritional habits have gone from poor to poorer during the COVID-19. With stress and anxiety, our hormones are telling us that to eat more junk food. It literally is controlled by these hormones in our body that are stress hormones. So we're eating more things with sugar and salt and fat when we should really be eating more of products from nature. So again, it comes down to eating real food, whole food that Mother Nature provided us. Lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, okay? Whole grains, beans, nuts, skip all the pies, skip all the processed foods. It really is important to eat the best diet possible because that's also going to protect your immune system. This is a big one, relationships, socialization, and loneliness. So there's a research psychologist out at UCLA, his name is Stephen Cole, and he writes, if you measure actual stress using best available instruments, it doesn't hold a candle to social isolation. Social isolation is the best established, most robust social or psychological factor for disease out there. Nothing can compete. That's a strong statement, and that's his area of research. May or may not be true, but I think we are seeing this with the pandemic. Whether you see it personally or whether you read articles, people are struggling. People are struggling with their mental health because we are social creatures. We were born to be together. We were born to be in clans and tribes. And now our tribes are shrinking because we've been more physically isolated from one another. I think one of the worst things we ever came up with during this crisis is the term social distancing, because that's not an accurate term. We need to physically distance, but we do not need to socially distance. There's many, many ways we can be socially connected. And we know that strong, loving, nurturing social connections and relationship protect us from chronic diseases. Our social environment dictates how our genes are expressed. They have a very strong correlation with our mood and our mental health. And so we need to physically distance, but we do not need to socially distance. Right now, all of you are gathered with us tonight in a social way. We can see each other, we can talk to each other, and yes, we'll have question and answer afterwards, but we are engaged in a social interaction. And we'd love to connect with you on a human bodily basis, but we can't right now. So we're doing the best we can. So it's really interesting. You know, connect with the people around you. We're less busy. We have more time for connection, whether it's your spouse, your children, your grandparents, your parents, whatever it is, connect with them. The research would tell us that if we can't be physically together, then the best way to connect is either through a Zoom meeting where we can see each other, Skype, FaceTime, or just a phone call. Connecting through texting and emails is not a social connection. It just doesn't work. Our brains just don't absorb it as a social connection. You have to physically see or talk to someone to make that connection. Now, it's perfectly reasonable in our pandemic to be outside with a small group of people, fully masked, 6 feet away. That's perfectly acceptable, perfectly acceptable. And we need to do more of that. I'm trying to figure out in the winter how I can have small get-togethers in my yard, and I'm gonna buy big blankets. I'm just gonna put them on the chairs and wrap people up, and we're gonna have dinner outside. They do it in Norway and Sweden. Why can't we do it here? But again, small groups, 3 or 4 people, distance by 6 feet, wearing masks. Those are important things. It's funny, I've connected more with my neighbors and I know things about them I never knew. Like, oh, you do that? I didn't know that. So it's kind of fun. So we can look at this time as something dreadful where we're missing out, or we can look at this time, this is a different lens, remember, as an opportunity to learn more about the people around us. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? So just because we're socially distanced or physically distanced doesn't mean we're socially isolated. Remember that. I want to read this in closing. This was written at the beginning of the pandemic, and this resonates so much with me. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being, and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. This is an opportunity to change the way we live, to change the way we think, and to begin to heal human relationships as well as the entire earth. So I thank you all for your attention. I thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to be with us. And I wish all of you peace, love, and joy and healing on whatever journey you're on. Thank you.
Andy, that was great. Thank you so much. You know, words of wisdom, especially for these times we're living in. You know what I love the most is, obviously you're a medical doctor and you're an expert also in nutrition, but also on supplementation. But the talk tonight wasn't about how to go buy some supplements or what prescription to take to make you feel better. It's all things that we have right here at our fingertips, right here at our ability to breathe in and breathe out, and that we have at this very moment everything we need for perfect joy right now. The question I have for you is maybe for those of us who really know the importance of meditation but have not yet figured out how to develop that sustained practice, how can we get started? Like, is 5 minutes, setting aside 5 minutes, a good way of getting started? Or what are some tips for just getting started?
Yeah, I think we have to, again, most of us are conditioned that meditation is this religious thing and that we have to sit around on a pillow with incense and a robe. And we've got to get that vision out of our minds, because meditation is not religious, it's non-secular. And we have to remove that vision, and we have to remove the idea that, oh, I've got to sit around for hours to do this. No, it's just as you said, Dick, it's about the intention to sit down with your mind for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it might be. And as you do, and as you reflect on what that did for you, you will then be able to improve and increase your time, whether it might be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I find, really, frankly, a lot of the meditation, so there's apps on the phone, and there's many, many meditation apps, but I find those very helpful. Almost all of them will have at least a 7 to 28 day introductory course. And usually the introductory courses are 5 to 10 minutes long. And so they can really, and people get this notion that, oh, I can't be a good meditator. There is no good or bad, okay? Again, we have this judgment, right? It's not good or bad, it just is. And one of the things we have to accept as we learn to be mindful is our minds are going to race. There's going to be thoughts, there's going to be intrusions, and you're going to go, I can't do this, I have too many thoughts. But remember, mindfulness is not about getting rid of your thoughts. It's about acknowledging that thought and then just letting the thought go and refocusing back on what we call meditation object, which is typically the breath. So we have to get people to understand there's not a right or wrong. It's not religious or not, it's not religious. It just is. And using an app can be very helpful. So here's the apps I'm familiar with. I use an app called Waking Up by Sam Harris. He has a 28-day introductory course. There's one called Calm. There's another one called Headspace. There's one called Insight Timer. But I find for beginners who may be uncomfortable, as present day human beings, we all seem to be uncomfortable with quiet and calm. And I think that's a barrier for people just sitting down and being with themselves. And I think the apps bring a little bit of comfort because someone's actually talking to you, guiding you through this. Now, as you move forward in a meditation practice, you may not need the app. You may be able to sit down with your thoughts and your focus by yourself. But it's about taking a practice and making it a habit. And in order to make it a habit, you have to find the time of day to do it. So one of the things that you could do, there's an interesting book that was just written by a guy over in England by the name of Chatterjee. And what I learned from him is, in order to make something a habit, you have to make it simple and you have to make it convenient. So I'm going to give you an example. If you go down in the morning and you start brewing coffee, and the coffee takes, let's say, 5 minutes to brew, what are you doing during that 5-minute time period? Nothing. Wandering around, waiting for the coffee to finish. Perfect opportunity to develop a habit of meditating during that 5 minutes. So we have to take these practices and turn them into habits, because whatever you do, whether it's meditation, whether it's learning to dance, whether it's learning to golf, you cannot become proficient without practice. And the more you practice, the more that meditation will benefit your life. So there's a gentleman up at University of Wisconsin by the name of Richie Davidson. And Richie Davidson has done functional MRI and MRI scans, brain scans of Tibetan meditators. And they literally have a different anatomy than we do as Westerners. They've literally changed the anatomy of their brain by lifelong meditation. So we have this concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity means the ability to change connections, neural connections within our brain. You have it till the day you die. And so what meditations does is it begins to change those neural connections so we become less reactive to situations and really more contemplative during those situations. So find 5 minutes that you can do every day and start out small. Because the most change we make in our life are small, consistent, incremental changes. And that's true of anything. So you want to start out small, but you want to be very consistent. Every day, spend those 5 minutes. That's my recommendation.
Great, thanks. Hey, Chris, do we have any questions from the chat room?
No, I don't see any at this moment, but if you do have a question, you can use on the bottom portion of your screen, just move your cursor down there, and there's both a question and answer and a chat, and we'd be glad to pass those along to Dr. Nish.
Everything must have been crystal clear.
Andy, do you see this in your patients? You know, when you talk about these kinds of opportunities for them, do you see real change in their course of chemotherapy or their course of radiation therapy in the time that you see them?
You know where we see the change is we see the change in how they view their chemotherapy or how they respond to the side effects of the chemotherapy, and how they change their response to either the disappointments of cancer care or the elations of cancer care. So we kind of smooth out this emotional roller coaster they go on. You know, we don't have a lot of data looking at outcomes. Oh, if somebody meditates, do they do better long-term with their cancer care? I don't know the answer to that, but I can sure tell you we change their quality of life. So if you look at the Society of Interventional Oncology and you look at the ASCO, which is the big medical oncology society, you look at meditation, it gets a grade A recommendation for mood and depression. So it works very well for mood and depression. It works very well for improving anxiety and quality of life. And those are the keys. So we go, you know, we have all these people on this journey through their cancer care. And what this meditation and what some of these integrative therapies do is they improve that person's journey by improving their quality of life, improving the impression of themselves and those around them. That's really the goal. Now, we don't have the long-term data to say if you do all these things, you're going to live longer. I believe we will have that someday, because if we're reducing stress hormones and we're reducing anxiety and we're making people feel better, I think that the outcomes are going to be better. But it really is about making them have their best life possible. As my daughter says with her 2-year-olds that she takes care of, best life, best life. And that's what we all want, best life.
Amen, brother. Andy, thank you so much. This has been really great and timely, and I'm going to be out in nature as much as I can this weekend. Absolutely.
I was going to say, you're not here because it's dark here. Are you on the West Coast?
No, I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. Beautiful Des Moines, Iowa, yes.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
Oh.
These are street lights that are coming through.
Oh, okay. It looked like there were like blue sky and mountains in the background. Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
But anyway, Andy, thanks so much. Really, really great talk. It was great. And for those of you who want to spread the news to people who couldn't be here tonight, this will be living on our YouTube channel. And I'll leave it up to Chris to tell you what's the name of our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you just need to go to YouTube and type in Above and Beyond Cancer, and it will take you right to it.